Welcome back to Backroads and Bowstrings. Down in southern Tasmania, where the river looks like polished tea, the fog arrives before breakfast and every second person is either growing apples, talking about apples, or turning apples into something that makes lunch go better. That's the Huon River Bridge ahead, quietly doing its job while the rest of us are still wondering where we left our socks. Before the cars, cafes, roadworks, bakeries and blokes reversing trailers with unearned confidence, this was Malerkity country, river country, valley country, story country. The Huon River was here first, of course. The towns came later, named for the river, which was named after Captain Huon de Kermadec, a French explorer, because apparently Tasmania didn't have enough names people could mispronounce at caravan parks. By the 1800s, Europeans had started settling here and the valley began filling with timber getters, farms, orchards and the slow, heroic smell of wet wool. And as the fog lifts, Huonville does what Tasmanian towns do best, appears quietly, as if it was there all along but didn't want to make a fuss. Funny thing is, Huonville wasn't really meant to be the big centre. Nearby Ranelagh had early town plans, but Huonville had the river crossing, the bridge, the hotels, and, as history often proves, people will gather whenever there's a decent crossing and somewhere to get a counter meal. Today, Huonville is the practical heart of the valley. You can get fuel, groceries, coffee, gossip, hardware, and possibly 3 different opinions about the weather before you've parked your van. But underneath all that everyday bustle is a town built on serious work. Timber, orchards, hop fields nearby, river trade, and generations of families making a living from this green, damp, glorious pocket of the island. And then there's the river, the Huon itself, wide, calm, and moody enough to have its own ABC drama. The bridge is more than a way across. It's the reason the town grew where it did. The first bridge here opened in 1876, which means locals have been crossing the Huon, looking at the weather and saying, "She'll clear up," for nearly 150 years. The bridge tied farms, timber, trade and travellers together and probably shortened a few arguments between people who lived on opposite sides of the river. From up here, Huonville looks peaceful, sensible and well behaved, which is exactly how most country towns like to look before the festival committee meets. The valley became famous for apples, rows and rows of them. Tasmania didn't get called the apple isle because somebody found one in a lunchbox. Here, apples were industry, identity, export, pride, and eventually cider, which is what happens when history gets fizzy. And yes, if you listen closely, you can still hear an old orchardist judging your pruning. You know, the culture here isn't loud. It's in the produce stalls, the sheds, the footy jumpers, the cafes, the riverbank picnics, the local shows, the art, the cider, the salmon, and the way people still wave from utes, like it's legally required. Follow the river away from town and you feel why the people stayed. There's history in the banks, work in the paddocks, mist in the hills, and that very Tasmanian feeling that beauty doesn't need to shout. It just sits there quietly and waits for you to notice. Preferably before the drone battery starts screaming. So that's Huonville. Bridge town, river town, orchard town, valley town, a place shaped by Mallurkety country, colonial crossings, timber, apples, hard work, floods of fog, and the kind of quiet charm that sneaks up on you like a cold morning in gumboots. I came for the drone shot and stayed for the river. And all right, possibly the bakery. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.